What is up, everybody? Welcome on into Alarm Fantasy Football. I'm your host, Andrew Cooper, and alongside me, my good buddy that always kind of end caps these seasons with me, right? We always come in hot, we go and handle our in-season content, and then we come back and we hit the playoff challenge over at FFPC. My guy, Theo Gremminger. How we doing, buddy, man? How you living? How were the holidays? How's life?
It's this week's been like catch-up week for me. I had a chance to get out of town and do a little family trip sort of like at the very end of the season. So this week's been a little hectic. I did one of these with Scott Barrett the other day, but like you said, when the two of us get into the FFPC streets and build our fantasy football playoff challenge team, it's always so much fun. I think we came up with the term that everybody uses now, the word good chalk. Like good chalk. I think that should be us. But we did pretty well in one of these before. We'd like to take it up a notch. We'd like to win some serious money. The free entries are fun. But this is always fun, man. I'm really looking forward to this one.
Yeah, I'm pumped, dude. So you did your family thing. I have a little trick that I do every year. Now, this will be I think the fourth year in a row now. What I do is the morning of the Super Bowl, early in the morning, pack up and fly to Florida.
I think that's great. I think
So
that's great.
all my content's in, all the bets, all everything. There's nothing left for me to do. Pack up, fly to Florida, watch the Super Bowl with my dad, and we bring Lainey and my wife, and we go down. And then I spend 10 days down there. And then when I get back, I mean, between the Super Bowl, from the Super Bowl to the Combine, there's not even 30 days.
No.
Football's just back. By the time I'm back, football's back. So it is perfect. Yeah, that's when I take my little break. But no rest for the wicked today because we have playoffs starting tomorrow. Tomorrow, playoffs start, which means we got to finalize these FFPC lineups. Folks that haven't played on this channel to get ready for this show, the big one here, I had Jacob Sanderson on last week to talk, thinking about thinking, one of the greatest thinkers here in the fantasy space. We talked all the strategy. Then Howard and John and I argued nonstop on Wednesday. Today, we're taking everything that we sorted through, and Theo and I are going to put our minds together and put together a team. If you want to put together a team at FFPC, it's still open. So be careful. These contests do often close. They fill. So it's like if you're thinking, oh, I'll just make one tomorrow morning, be careful with that. Go to myffpc.com or go to fantasyalarm.com/FFPC. It'll automatically populate promo code alarm, or you can just hit the QR code right there, the one up there. And they'll give you $25 when you deposit 35 or more. We're doing the $35 contest today. If you put 45 in there, that'll give you 2 entries. 45 plus 25 equals 60. That math check out with you, Theo?
No, I think it does. I got to get my calculator out, but I trust you. I trust you.
Yeah, we're more narrative guys, so you're gonna have to get out the spreadsheets and double check that. But I think the math checks out. So get set up. Basically, here's how it works. There's no draft, there's no salary. You can basically start any player with one exception. No 2 players from the same team, which I love because you can't just stack up, Jalen Hurts and AJ Brown. You have to pick one or the other, right? And that's your team through the entire playoffs. So there's a lot of game theory, a lot that goes into it. So real quick, I just want to say what up to everybody in the chat. Thank you guys for popping in and hanging out. Greg, stop saying hail to the Redskins in the chat, please. Audie Coop, what's happening? Likes and love for Laney. Thank you guys for popping through. Let's get into it. This is the last one of the year, and we're really going to take it seriously. So we want to make sure we cover everything. Is there anything else you wanted to throw out there? The rules for FFPC, folks. Actually, you know what? We probably should just real quick cover all the rules before we get into the chart, right, Theo?
Yeah, I mean, I think that the key for anybody who hasn't done it before is it's a 1.5 point tight end premium. So it's regular PPR for running backs, for wide receivers, but you get that extra half point on every tight end reception. Yeah. And we're doing the $35 contest. And a few years back, there was like a 4 tight end team that took down the $35. $35 on the 200 contest. There's like more than twice as many teams in the $35 contest. So it's like 16,000 entries instead of like 7,200 entries. So it gets a little bit more of like the DFS mentality where you're in a little bit larger field, but everything else is the same. You're still going to have to nail it with your lineup. Last year was like, Coop, I did an article, and I know you do a goated article every year at Fantasy Alarm. I had to do it this year at Fantasy Points. So I dove into it. I did like my strategy. Chris Wecht, our projections guy, did like our projected roster percentages for this. And I found tight end really, really hard this year.
Yes.
Like the two really chalky guys at the top, Kittle and Loveland. Um, it's a weird year for this one. Last year it was running back heavy rosters took down. I think it was like in the $200 contest, like the top 5 teams all used like at least 4 running backs. And I think the winning team only had 3 wide receivers and a tight end. So I don't know if it's going to repeat itself, but it doesn't feel like a year that we cram in a bunch of tight ends is just my lean.
Right. In the past, we've seen that a ton. Tight ends, because usually we have like Travis Kelce. We had prime Travis Kelce, prime Mark Andrews, all these guys in the playoffs. This year, the top 6 tight ends from the regular season in scoring, none of them made the playoffs, right? No McBride, no Pitts, no Fannin, no Warren. Those guys are all out. The top scoring, just total raw points scoring tight end to make the playoffs is actually Dallas Goedert, right? Is the tight end 7. So, and he made it mostly on touchdowns, which tight end premium, 11 touchdowns. Tight end premium doesn't really help you with that. It's just for receptions. It doesn't, no reception, no extra points for yards, no extra points for touchdowns. And great point on the 2 different contests, because I was kind of going through, shout out to our guys, Fantasy Mojo. They got a lot of great data over there. Darren and the gang over there do a great job. So I went through, and there's really only been 1 year where the same lineup won both contests. In most years, the winner of the $35 contest, that lineup is like so specifically niche and good that you have to like nail it. In the $200 one, because there's less people, you can kind of get away with some stuff. So that's what we're gonna do here. Here's what it looks like: QB, 2 running backs, 2 wide receivers, 4 flex, a tight end, a kicker, and a defense. Just so you know, there's 14 teams in the playoffs. This is 12 lineup spots, which means 2 teams we're going to have no player from. Also, you want to soft fade the kicker and defense. You don't want your kicker and defense going deep. I believe, Theo, and correct me if I'm wrong, there was 1 year where a defense was in the final lineup that made the Super Bowl. It was over a decade ago, though. It was the Seahawks, right?
Yeah, I remember somebody, I think it might have been you who referenced that last year. The only thing that we didn't say for the strategy, probably one of the most important ones, is you get double the points in the Super Bowl.
Good call.
So if we end up with a quarterback or a wide receiver and then like maybe a running back, and they go head to head in the Super Bowl, that could end up being the winning ticket. But last year's quarterback to win the 200 was actually Jaden Daniels. So I think that like when you do this, it's sort of like, oh, I get double points in the Super Bowl, therefore I need to pick the Super Bowl quarterback and I need to go through the bracket, and that's going to be my edge. It's really been, let's get access to the smash weeks. Like Saquon Barkley was rostered by everybody last year. Jahmyr Gibbs was rostered. I mean, when we're talking about the winning teams, Jahmyr Gibbs. And then in the $200 contest, it was Xavier Worthy was the Kansas City Chief. So you got that 35 point, and then you the 22.1 against Buffalo. So they stacked up some points there. So I think really the 2 of us, we came to this conclusion last year. It's let's get the really big scoring outcomes and, try to get a little different here and there. But I mean, Coop, we got to score like 570 points ish if we're going to take down the whole thing.
You need guys. Basically, it's this: the teams where you think they're going to lose this week, you want to have basically either complete fades, your kicker and defense, and then 2 of our position players are going to get eliminated this week, right? 2 guys from our running back or flex spots are going to get eliminated. So we want those guys capable of 1 monster week, right? Whether that's via the tight end premium or just somebody that can put up big numbers. That's what we have to do here. That's what we're setting out. And that defense stat, that was from Eric Bachman himself. He was the one that gave me that stat that I was sharing. And our team this week, I just thought it'd be funny if we do win, if our team name is Bocky's Beard.
I love it. I mean, he's got one of the all-time beards in fantasy. It's a remarkable ZZ Top level type beard.
Fantastic. Just imagine he at the end of the contest, him and the rest of the guys at FFPC are going to check the winning team names, and the top name is his beard.
Yeah, I mean
that would just be,
you can't buy that kind of respect.
There's extra wisdom in that beard, and there's extra mojo in there. So I just feel that's going to help us out here.
And so I just wanted to ask you one thing, because you mentioned the teams that were fading, and one thing I asked Scott this year. Scott Barrett does a lot of our DFS content. Super sharp guy. we did our version of this show. We did an entry in the $200, and I said, like, the one thing that's interesting is Carolina. Our projections guru says, Chris Wecht says that he's anticipating like 85% of people to completely fade using a Carolina Panther. Is there value to you in finding your being unique by just using a Panther? And you could use any of them. Remember the Ladd McConkey week last year where Ladd McConkey had, one game, but he went absolutely ham. It kind of feels like there could be an edge there, but Scott was like, probably not because they're 10-point dog, etc. I just was curious your feel on that one.
Yeah, I mean, to me, there's one player, right? And we can get into it. Why don't we pull up the sheet and we can get into it? We can start with whatever team you want. So why don't we start with the Panthers? So for folks that haven't seen us do one of these before, I took the liberty of putting in all the teams here. I put in the odds of the conference and them winning the Super Bowl. But what matters is getting to the Super Bowl. You don't have to win the Super Bowl for this. So I sorted it by those conference odds, but I included the other ones just for reference sake. And we're going to go through and just put any viable players we think you can use in here. And then we're going to pick and choose who we think is going to be in our lineup. And I think for the Panthers, I think you got to build yourself a narrative, right? Like their odds of going to the Super Bowl clearly are drastically worse than everybody else, even much worse than the Steelers here. But you can create a narrative that Teteroa McMillan goes out and has, 2 touchdowns and has a big spike week, right? Like that's the guy we're looking at because we're not going to go to – you have to – when you have an 85% fade team, you don't even have to get super cute to do laps on people. You know what I mean? Like we don't have to go and start like Tommy Tremble because no one's going to be starting him. So, it's like if you just start McMillan and 15% of people are – only 15% of people are using a Panther at all, and some of them may be using Rico Dowdle or some of them may be foolishly using like Bryce Young. Or kicker and defense. People could be using the kicker and defense. I think that's a when you say fade, does that include people just using their kicker and defense?
Yeah, it includes everything. He projected that Carolina itself would be like, and Cooper wasn't even close. It was like, as you could see from the odds, it sort of matched up with the odds. Though I guess wisdom of the crowds is don't use a Panther. Panthers are dead in the water. But we saw McMillan with 70 catches, 1,000 receiving yards, 7 touchdowns. He had a 33-point week in sort of recent memory here. Right. That would be my only thing. I think we've got to consider using McMillan. I don't think using the kicker or the kicker doesn't really matter in this one because again, they're double-digit dogs and they're chasing points. They're going to have to chase touchdowns against LA. Defense is dead in the water. I think it's Tet McMillan or no one for Carolina.
Fully agree. And Hamburglar, will these sheets be posted? I actually already posted an article with the sheet that we did on Wednesday, just with the Fantasy Alarm crew. So just go to Fantasy Alarm or just Google Fantasy Alarm FFPC. Those articles should come up. And I'm going to take a screenshot of this one when we're done, and I'll post it in the Discord on Coop's Corner. So you can have this sheet, and the other one's already posted in an article for you guys. Look at that. Toronto Dave in the house. Likes for Laney. Let's go. He also said GOAT guest here.
Yeah, shout out to Dave. Really supports a lot of these shows. Really sharp guy himself.
He rules, dude.
Yeah.
That's it. TD rules, dude. Awesome guy. All right. So, hey, next team here. Pick one. Why don't we just go team for team? You pick a team, then I'll pick a team. So pick any team here, whether you're fading them, whether you like them, whether you just want to pick one at random. What do you want to go to next?
I think we should do Seattle. Just go off the top here.
Yeah.
I think this is one where we're probably going to end up eating the chalk and using Jackson Smith and Jigba. I feel like the two most highly rostered wide receivers in this one, people are not wrong to want to use them. If it's Seattle making the Super Bowl, JSN will be one that you really want to have access to. And if the Rams make the Super Bowl, it's hard to fade Puka. I do like Matt Stafford a lot more than I like Sam Darnold if we're looking to chase an NFC quarterback there. So I don't necessarily want to cram in Darnold unless you're going to stand for him. I think what's interesting is, I guess the ultimate leverage against the field pick would be using Kenneth Walker and hoping that you get 2 big blow-up games at like 5% or fewer roster number, because I do think JSN is going to be like 75% rostered. I think Darnold will be like 5% rostered. maybe less. And Walker is going to be like 5% rostered. So I think Walker's an interesting one, even though you could completely fall flat and it could be Charbonnet just falling into the end zone.
Yeah, an entire article could be written on just the quarterback position for FFPC, right? Because there's so many factors that go into it. Number one here, the Seahawks are going to miss a game, but if they go to the Super Bowl, that's worth double, right? So hypothetically, Sam Darnold can basically play 4 games, right? When you count the double game. But somebody like Stafford can play 5 when you
Yeah.
count the double game, right? And that's how we've gotten these years where the quarterback that is the winning quarterback, like Jaden Daniels or Josh Allen, get eliminated in the conference round because they are playing 3 games and they're technically outscoring the quarterbacks that are getting the bye and playing 4 games. The other part of it that you have to factor in is the replacement value of some of these guys where one year Patrick Mahomes did outscore Jalen Hurts, but Travis Kelce outscored every other tight end by so much that Travis Kelce was the pick over Mahomes because you can only pick one chief. And I think that's the problem you run into with Darnold is that if this team makes a run, what are the odds that Darnold outscores JSN? I don't think it's very good. If this team
Yeah.
plays just one game, what are the odds that Darnold outscores JSN? It kind of makes me not interested in Darnold because he would need to be like when and this is a crazy stat from this guy over at FTN Knowles over there. He posted he took every quarterback, Theo, and he removed the top wide receiver and then recalculated DVOA. And Drake May dropped to like 14 and Stafford dropped to like 13. Sam Darnold dropped to negative 15
Yeah,
when
it's
you remove
crazy.
JSN because all his points are going through basically one guy. So yes, maybe AJ Barner scores 2 touchdowns in a loss, and you get kind of that kind of flip there. But I think we should just stick with JSN
Yeah,
for.
let's just use JSN. I think every lineup I'm building almost has JSN for better or for worse. Um, you just if you think they're going to make the title game, even if you don't think they're going to make the title game, it's been their number one most consistent player. He's highly rostered for a reason, and he's a stud. So JSN, no matter what, for us, I don't think we should even put another name down.
And when you go, I'm not going to. And when you go in hindsight and look at Fantasy Mojo and look at the top teams most of these years, you look at it and you say, yeah, that makes sense. You know
Yep.
what I mean? Like there is a lot of chalk. And then there's a couple spots where they differentiate. And in reality, there's 14 teams here, and you got to pick one quarterback. A big part of it is getting the right quarterback, getting a couple of the right chalk plays, and then maybe having one little spot where you're different, but you're also just very much right. So, like for us, I think JSN is one of those guys. Now let's address the well. Why don't we just go in
Well,
order?
yeah, let's go. So Denver's interesting. Knicks is going to have no one rostering him. And
Right.
if you are going to make an argument for Denver making the Super Bowl, I think because it's the $35 contest and it's 16,000 entrants, Bo Nix has had some frustrating weeks, but he's also had some big games. I think we should throw him in there just to have a discussion. I don't think we'll ultimately end up using him. Cortland Sutton and RJ Harvey.
Can I say real quick, just not to interrupt you, but
Yeah.
Jacob Sanderson also was somebody who was basically saying, "Hey, you know what, dude? Real possibility this team goes to the Super Bowl. Odds are suggesting it, and like Knicks could just be the answer." So
Yeah, and
not
Knicks
all
has
crazy.
those random blow up games where
Nice.
it'll be frustration, frustration, and then 4 touchdowns, or frustration, frustration, and then he rushes for 2 touchdowns and also connects on 2 big deep shots, and he can find it with both ways. So, I mean, Knicks, you just need it to run hot, and also you're getting extreme leverage against the field. I don't know if Denver makes the Super Bowl, but I feel like the AFC is so wide open. They have home field advantage. He's interesting. Sutton and Harvey are the 2 chalkier ones. They both make sense. Scott and I built a lineup using Cortland Sutton. So I think I'm there. And I think you have to use a Denver Bronco because, again, they have a chance to go deep. And next week they're going to be at home.
I think too many people are looking at this column right here, the Super Bowl odds column, and seeing that 650. When in this contest, you should be looking at this column with
The
the
conference.
chances of just
Yeah.
going to the Super Bowl. Like the Super Bowl odds are telling us that they believe that the NFC teams are stronger, and that's
Yep.
fine. We don't care about who wins the Super Bowl. We really don't. We care about who goes to the Super Bowl, and Vegas is telling us that the Broncos have a damn good shot of going to the Super Bowl. So we're gonna have to have one in there. Absolutely, man. On the Rams front, the Rams are just a very difficult team, and I think picking the right Ram is, I mean, it's going to eliminate a big chunk of the field.
Yeah, Stafford and Nakua are the two answers here. Um, Nakua is going to be a massively rostered player. Stafford is going to be lower roster than him. We're projecting Josh Allen and Drake May to easily be the two most rostered quarterbacks in this field. So Stafford, you do get a great deal of leverage. Nakua could end up being that really good chalk, though. So I think that the Rams, they were my pick to make the Super Bowl. I know Vegas is telling you they like Seattle a little bit better. But the Rams, I think, are a very complete, very balanced team. And when you talk about an NFC title type game, I trust Matt Stafford a little bit more than I do Sam Darnold. He's been there. We know that Mike McDonald hasn't been there, and Sean McVay's been in a bunch of big ones. So experience a lot of it. I mean, Rams, you could make like a contrarian argument for Williams, but I think the fact that Corum's cutting in so much sort of limits that. I think we use Stafford or Nakua.
Yeah, Sam Darnold, man, I do not envy him right now. Like the position he's in, I know that we're saying like, oh yeah, second chance, doing great, but like, man, if he blows it again, he cannot have a one and done playoffs here, right? Like,
and you look at last year, the way that he finished the season so poorly. Maybe that's sort of the narrative arc for Darnold. If it happens this year and they go out next week, I think people are going to look at him as a guy who just can't do it in the playoffs, can produce in the regular season for better or for worse, even though the sample size is not that big. It's a tough one, a lot of pressure.
huge pressure. I mean, like, the thing is, like, it's so hard to go back and put yourself in the mindset that you were in at this time last year. But like in this moment last year, or even probably 2 weeks ago, because he kind of started going downhill, like Sam Darnold was an MVP candidate. His team had 14 wins, Theo, 14-3. And then because of the way the season ended, we just completely erased all those thoughts that we had. And you know what? I hate to say it because I'm wearing a Patriot shirt as we speak. But like, if the Patriots lose this week to the Chargers, that's going to erase so much goodwill, right? Like
Yeah.
that, people forget that, like, in hindsight, you totally look at it as the sum of things. It's so hard to look back and think about the feelings we had in week 3 of this year alone, like because of how much has changed. Like, you got to know that, like, as a quarterback, so much pressure to just win one, at least one here. So I'm with you on that. And I just want folks to know with the Rams, because we got to kind of maybe speed through some of these teams here, but with the
Sure.
Rams, if you're picking Devontae Adams, you are fading the Rams, right? Because you over a 2 or 3 game sample size, Devontae Adams is not likely to outscore Stafford or Nakua or even Kyren Williams. But over a 1 game sample size in which they lose, he could potentially score 2-3 touchdowns and outscore Nakua. And even if Stafford outscores him, if Stafford loses week 1, all the Stafford teams are dead. So to me, picking Devontae Adams, you're expecting the Rams to lose this week or win maybe 1 game. Is that correct game theory to you?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's basically Adams is a thread the needle one,
Right.
where you need that big spike week. Stafford, you have a little more room for error. They could make it through. Nakua, a big week is coming, even if it's not in week 1, as long as they win. So yeah, I understand what you're saying.
If you're picking a quarterback, you're picking that team to win 2 games minimum.
Yes.
Right. And with Adams, just know that when you're building your lineups, I'm not even saying it's a bad move to pick Adams, but if you're going to pick Devontae Adams, don't pick the Rams as your Super Bowl team, because over the course of 4 games, what are the odds that Adams outscores Nakua over a 4-game sample size? From what we've seen this year, that's actually not that good. The odds of him outscoring Nakua over a 1-game sample size, to me, is actually 50-50, though, right?
Yeah. No,
So,
I see what you're saying. I mean,
you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Like, if you're going to pick Adams, your bracket should be focused on the Rams losing, with either losing this week or only winning 1 game, because it's a sample size thing. Like, in just 1 game, any player can really be the guy that outscores the rest of these guys, But over the longer sample size, the key pieces to these teams typically outscore the other guys.
Yeah, no, I like it.
Okay, Patriots. Another
I
tough
think
one.
we got to throw May in there. I think Diggs gets consideration if we don't use May, and then both
any mobile QB that we think can go to the conference championship has to be on the sheet.
100% agree. Yeah, so I think it's
May.
May.
That was my whole point. We can go back to what you were saying.
Yeah, no, I was going to say with Patriots, there's a lot of potential ones because if we don't use Drake May, I think you've got to cram in a Stephon Diggs or one of the two running backs.
Okay.
And I know
Yeah.
Scott made an argument for using Ramondre Stevenson, but I don't know. I feel like Travion Henderson has a blow up game in him some point in the playoffs. I could just see it, Coop. There's always a couple of guys that gain ADP value from the playoffs. You saw it last year with Ladd, years back with Gabe Davis. It feels like Travion Henderson, who's been outscored significantly by Stevenson over the last 2 weeks. If they're challenged by the Chargers and this becomes a little bit more of a high scoring week, I could see this being a Travion Henderson week. So we're absolutely using a Patriot. I see you sneaking in your guy, Hunter Henry. That's fine. We'll talk about him too.
I'll tell you, this is with Jacob Sanderson. This was a takeaway that I think makes a lot of sense, which is that if you think the Patriots go deep, you probably want May or one of the running backs. If you think that this team loses one or two games, like especially if you're a Patriots fader, which they're out there, we've seen in this contest time and time again, team really struggling to move the ball, and they just dink and dunk to their tight end in a losing effort. And that tight end catches like 9-10 passes, which if you catch 10 passes as a tight end, that's 15 passes for a wide receiver. We've seen a lot of the 1 year with the 4 tight ends. TJ Hawkinson had a one and done game where they just dink and dunk the ball to him, right? We've seen Dalton Schultz be a guy. We saw Jake Ferguson. Didn't he score like 3 touchdowns?
Yeah, Ferguson had that massive week for Dallas.
Right. So it's like, but again, over the course of, like, let's say you think the Patriots go to the Super Bowl, what are the odds that Hunter Henry is like the engine that drives this team for 4 straight games? I don't think that's very good.
Yeah,
So
I think that's a great way of putting it. Yeah, we will consider Henry there.
if we're going to end up fading the Patriots, if we think the Patriots are not going to, if the Patriots aren't going to be our Super Bowl team or even our conference, I'll put it this way: if we think the Patriots go to the AFC Championship, I don't want Henry. But if we're plotting something out here where they get knocked off in the first 2 weeks, then I would consider Diggs or Henry, just because it's entirely possible one of those guys pops off for a big game and then they lose, which we're going to have a flex that loses. With the Eagles, again, we got to throw Hurts in here. Playoff Hurts been pretty good.
Love Hurts. And love Hurts. Yeah, like you said, it's a mobile quarterback. It's a team that could win some games. They have a home game this week against San Francisco. They were in the Super Bowl last year. They won it all. And I think that there's going to be, we're actually projecting Saquon Barkley to be the most heavily rostered running back in the whole thing. And then AJ Brown, the siren call of AJ Brown is also fun too.
Right. Barkley, I mean, like, talk about a guy that can just rip off 60 yards at any moment,
Yeah, absolutely. He might be the good chalk.
He's a good chalk because he's one of the few guys where you can say, if they lose this week, he could be the guy. If they win 4 games, he could be the guy. Like JSN, those type guys end up being the players where it's kind of bracket agnostic, right? Like for a 1 game sample size, for a 2 game, for a 3 game sample size, they could just be the guy you need to have. So we might just do that anyway. And again, we haven't really thrown any kickers and defense on here because these are all good teams.
Yeah, exactly. Right? Exactly. We'll get our kickers a little bit later. Bills are easy. Josh Allen, James Cook. I think we use one of those two.
I think with the Bills, there's only 3 options: Josh Allen, James Cook, or a complete fade, like a 0 player fade. Because you're not going to use the kicker. Who even is the kicker? Is Prater going to kick? Is he hurt? Like,
yeah, I think that's a great point, and I think that the Bills are super susceptible to losing this week. I do think with James Cook, he's been consistently good in the playoffs, and we've seen him put up numbers even in losses. You remember the Kansas City game last year, so they're going to go to Cook one way or another. So even if it's a full Bills fade, you absolutely don't consider Allen. But I think Cook could still be in consideration. I think Jacksonville's going to have to score some points in this one if they're going to win the game. So I agree with you. I think that there's an option to full fade the Bills, and that gets you a little different than the field. But Cook is still so enticing.
Right. Yeah. And we can't full fade them because then Liam Murphy will come for us, dude.
There you go.
And we don't want that, dude. He's been on the Bills' worst path, and he makes a lot of good points. I look at these Bills and Eagles teams, and I'm like, man, would anybody, if the Super Bowl this year was Bills versus Eagles, would anybody bat their eye? Not at all. Not
Yeah,
at all.
it would be an incredibly lit Super Bowl, and even
Great.
though the Eagles were in it last year, I think the fact that they're playing on opening weekend and it hasn't been like a perfect year for them, I think they'd be it would be a really fun storyline to see them get back there. So yeah, I'm with you. Josh Allen, we're projecting again to be one of the top two most highly rostered quarterback. Last year, he was the most rostered quarterback in this field, I believe, for the 35 and the 200 for good reason. Josh Allen is just unbelievably good, a very very enticing player, especially on a team where you're not trying to use the wide receivers, you're not trying to use the tight ends. It's really Cook or Allen.
Yeah. Real quick before we get, that's how I feel too. Cook, Allen, or fade, and I don't think we should fade him here. Real quick before we get back to this, Theo, did you win any of your fantasy football leagues this year?
I did well this year, Coop. I had a couple of nice wins.
Yeah. Well, if you did win, maybe it's time to get yourself a USA Sports Fan chain. I don't know if you've seen these puppies, but our new sponsor here, made in America, cheaper than any other place, nice high quality, and you can rock it for yourself or get one for your whole league. Where else can you buy? It's the season of giving, still, in my opinion, Theo. Where else can you get a gift for 10 to 12 people? Where you buy this and whoever wins the league gets to wear it. Hey guys, I bought this for all of us. I know I won this year, so I'll wear it, but I bought it for everybody. So whoever wins next year gets to rock it. Use promo code ALARM over at USA Sports Fan Chains, or just hit this QR code here and go get set up over there. They'll give you 5% off, and also no tax. I think they're doing it. They said they do it up to 1,300 orders, and last we checked, they had like 800 left. So if you go over there, jump in on that. Pretty cool stuff, man. And that's ongoing now. So hit that QR code, Theo. So what was your favorite? I know you're in so many leagues. If you didn't win a league, I would be absolutely flabbergasted. What was your favorite one that you won this year?
That's a really really good question. I had a FFPC, a pretty high entry fee dynasty league where I started off the season pretty slow and I ended up just like working my way through, and then it's a 2 week sprint when you make it to week 16, and I ended up just dominating, scoring a ton of points. So that was a really really fun one. I had another one where it was like a dynasty league where it was back to back. So I had a couple of these where it was really really good stuff. Had a FFPC main event team I split with Scott and a B-Bag Batoba. We did well in that one. So yeah, there was a couple of really, really fun ones, Coop. This was a good year. So they're not all going to be really good years. This was a really good year, and hoping it's going to be another really good year. Last year was a pretty good year too. So never say never.
My thought process is always, if you can break even on the entry fees and have some fun, then it's a great year. You know what I mean? Making money obviously is awesome, and most years we do. But actually, I can't remember last time I didn't. But like, if you can just manage to play this game, that's how I feel about the casino too. If I can walk into the casino and have some fun and walk out of there with my shirt on still, then that's what it's all about, dude. And take any winnings you got, get yourself a chain over USA Sports Fan Chains right now, man. So yeah, love these chains from these guys, and I want a bunch of. I want a bunch of leagues. Money leagues and stuff. I won every live draft I did on Series XM. I won like 4 of them, but I lost in the championship in my hometown league. And those guys give me them. They talk the most trash. So that one, I would trade them all. I would trade them all for that, for the hometown league, man. I'm still that kind of guy, dude. But second place. Next year I'll get them. All right, let's jump back in here. Texans, brother. Texans. Where are you living on them?
Collins is the chalk. Nico Collins is going to be a chalky pick. He was our third highest projected wide receiver in terms of roster percentage. I think Texans are an interesting one. They're 550 to make it to the Super Bowl, which is really interesting considering everybody's on Jacksonville and Houston has better odds than them. They're right there with Buffalo, and they're not that far behind your New England Patriots. So I do think they're a little bit of a live dog. No one's going to use CJ Stroud, but I don't want to use CJ Stroud. And if you're fading them, Schultz is interesting. I think it's Nico Collins, and then I also think the defense is interesting, Coop, because if you're projecting them just to beat Pittsburgh and then lose next week, using that defense for 2 weeks might be beneficial. We ended up using Collins in one lineup, but it wasn't like we were like, oh, we have like the nuts here. He just makes the most sense as like an offensive focal point, and a guy who could put up a big week. Kaimi Fairbairn. I like you throwing that one in there too.
I'm throwing that in there, and I also throw one more name in there. A guy that has been
Yeah.
the guy in this contest before. Again, these 3 names down here, though, these are fade picks. If you don't think this team goes to the AFC Championship, use those guys, right? Like, you can use those guys. If you think they make a deep run, it probably goes through Collins, though, right?
Yeah. I think it's Collins. If Houston makes the Super Bowl, then there's going to end up being a Nico Collins team that probably does very, very well in this competition.
Yeah. So we're gonna have to decide what to do with these guys. And again, I think the reason people are fading them in fantasy is they are a very defense driven team, so it's not super sexy. But I mean, you're right. The odds are better for them to both win the conference and the Super Bowl. So, but Schultz has been the guy before in this contest, believe it or not, and on a 2-game sample size, Theo. That year he came out and he basically in his 2 games that he played, he caught 12 balls, which is the equivalent of a wide receiver catching 18 mathematically, and he caught 3 touchdowns. Right.
Yeah.
So that I think that was that 4 tight end year. It was 2023. So
And
he
not
has
to and not to get ahead of ourselves, but using like a Schultz or a Henry gives you access to using Christian McCaffrey and not George Kittle, who's a tight end. I'm sure we're both going to circle in ink when we get to San
I
Francisco.
don't want Kittle, dude. I don't
Yeah,
want
let's
Kittle.
not do it. Let's not do it then.
I tell you, I'm scared. I will only use Kittle if I think they win this week because this Eagles defense is brutal for tight ends. There's been 3 defenses that are really tough for tight ends. We'll get why don't we say that for when we get there, actually?
Yeah,
Let's
let's do
jump
it.
right in. Hey, and look at that. You guys finished top 10? You
No,
guys didn't
no,
do
no.
that.
We in the regular season we were like top 15, and then we ended up crapping out in the actual 3-week sprint. So that team was good. We won
It's
our
still a bunch
league.
of money. Yeah.
We won our league. We won our league playoff. We ended up finishing like really well in the regular season, and then postseason. That was a tough one. There was a couple of spike weeks that got away from us and all that kind of stuff. So we've done well drafting together, the 3 of us, and we'll do it again next year. So we have obviously a free entry for next year and won some money, which was nice. But yeah, that was not meant to be in the 3-week sprint.
Way she goes, dude.
Yeah.
And yeah, folks that don't know what we're doing, we're making an FFPC playoff lineup. So we're putting all the viable players onto the sheet. I will share this sheet in the Fantasy Alarm Discord. If you want to play, use promo code ALARM when you sign up over at my FFPC. They'll give you $25 when you deposit $35 or more, or just that little QR code that's up there on top. And you can get set up, play with us. Even if you don't make your lineup today, I encourage you to go and just and secure a spot, because last year I screwed up, Theo. I had an entry that they had sent me. So I made our show and I paid for that myself. And then they were like, "Oh, hey, we wanted to send you an entry," and they sent it to me, and I never even used it.
Oh my gosh.
Because I didn't get in. I didn't register my team. So they reached out to me this year and they're like, "Hey, do you need an entry?" And I was like, "No, I have one from last year that I didn't even get to use." So just beware that these do fill. So just register your team now, and then you can make your lineup anytime over tonight or tomorrow before the game start. But just don't make that mistake, because I think it was like Saturday, like 11 a.m. I went to register, and the $35 one was closed.
Yeah, I mean, they're both going to fill for sure.
They always do. So just do that today if you want to play.
Jacksonville is super interesting. Got to put Lawrence in there. He's been red hot.
Been awesome.
Got to put in ETN at running back. And then wide receiver wise, they have like a bunch of guys who are interesting. But I think it's ultimately you use Lawrence if you think they can make a run. I know there's a lot of people on Jacksonville being like potentially making like an AFC title game. Really, really an interesting one there. ETN's been so good this year. He's also been able to have some games where he put up points as a receiver, especially recently. Wide receiver one feels like a crapshoot. We're projecting Jacoby Myers to be the most heavily rostered Jaguars wideout in the field. Parker Washington's been really good, and I guess there's always the candle still being lit for BTJ by some managers. I probably, for Jacksonville, I think it's use ETN. Ultimately, we'd use ETN, or I'll throw Cam Little in there as a kicker to potentially use if we're fading them in the Buffalo game.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, I like the idea of this is another one where I look at it and I say, if I think they're going to go far, you lean into the stars. That's kind of how I've handled these ones. Go far, go stars. So, like over the course of multiple games, I think it's Myers, ETN, Lawrence. for one game, anybody can do it. You know what I mean? I wouldn't use Brenton Strange, but like a guy like BTJ, right? This week, I think he could pop off in a loss and maybe be the guy. But what happens when he keeps going through this bracket and he runs into Christian Gonzalez and he runs into Derek Stingley, right? And then and he runs into Patrick Surtain. Like then now the split end for that team, I don't know if they can consistently be the guy, if that makes sense, right? So for me, like what are the odds? And I know Xavier Worthy did pull it off last year, but like what are the odds that this team plays 3 games and BTJ outscores Travis Etienne or Jacoby Myers or even Parker Washington?
It's not great. It's really not great. I think the BTJ bet would be is if they play one game and he gets loose. I actually think Parker Washington's interesting. He's going to have nobody rostering him. Jacoby Myers, I think, will have a higher
Right.
roster percentage than most are anticipating. We actually are projecting in our weekly projections at Fantasy Points in PPR scoring. We're projecting Jacoby Myers to have 13.3 points. Parker Washington to have 12.7. So they're almost identical in terms of scoring numbers this week. And we are not high at all on BTJ this week, having any sort of a strong week. So I
Skip
think,
him.
yeah, I don't want to use BTJ. I think we leave, wide receiver as a question mark. Cam Little, if you want to fade them in this Bills game. So again, if you build like a Josh Allen lineup, potentially using a Cam Little or whatever, just get your kicker filled. But we'll come back to that one.
Yeah. But that's the thing. That the crazy thing about this tournament is that like if the Jaguars lose this week, which one of the wide receivers is going to score more than the other two. If the Jaguars lose this week and you have the wide receiver that scored more than the other two, you've just locked yourself in permanently ahead of all those other teams at that one spot. It's kind of doesn't mean you can't win if you just get everything else exactly right, but it is kind of crazy to think of it that way with these tournaments.
And
Bears here
could Lawrence be this year's Jaden Daniels? I think Caleb
could
Williams
be
also, you could make an argument like one of these two teams that have these sort of odds playing 3 games. One of these two quarterbacks could be like the quarterback that doesn't get to the Super Bowl but plays a few games.
right.
They're both interesting. I think Caleb's interesting because he's going to be extremely low rostered. He's got the rushing upside to him. He had 27 passing touchdowns. The chalk player is Colston Loveland, who we're projecting to be the highest rostered tight end in this whole competition because there's not exactly a bear that you need to cram in at wide receiver or running back. We could throw Swift's name in there. And then Luther Burden is going to be sub 5% rostered. We saw week 17. He can get loose. I sort of like Chicago in this game straight up against the Green Bay Packers. I know it's like the odds for these teams are nearly identical. And it's a game that, Vegas is projecting to be a very close one, but I think that ultimately Chicago beats them just for whatever it's worth.
Yeah, it's interesting that Vegas likes the Packers to
Yeah.
win on the road, but the odds of betting the conference championship favor the Bears.
I think the argument is if the Bears get by this one, they
then
have
they
a
can get
better
by the
chance
next
of
one.
winning next week than Green Bay would in back-to-back road
True.
games.
They're also the higher seed. Yeah, exactly. So it makes a lot of sense. Yeah, I'm with you on that. I'm no interest in using Bears defense or Santos. And yeah, Loveland, I mean, he's been hot lately. Back-to-back games with 10 targets. I know Odunze's back, but I don't know if that moves the needle. And again, guys like Lawrence and Williams, people will say like, "Oh, how are they going to be the best quarterback?" Again, they don't need to be.
No, they don't.
Because if the Super Bowl is Darnold, like let's say the Super Bowl is Seahawks against Eagles, but JSN and Barkley go crazy, then you need to have a different quarterback to have the optimal lineup. And it could be a quarterback like Lawrence or Williams that lose in the conference championship. So not off the table for what we're doing here. Packers are a tough team, man. What do you think about this
Jacobs
team?
is the chalk here. They're actually a team that's being faded by a good number of people. Coop, a little surprising that they're up there in the fade department. Christian Watson is going to be the highest rostered wide receiver here. I think we're projecting him to
Which
have.
I agree with and I like.
Yeah, and I like Watson too. I think those two guys are the two Packers that we should consider. I think they lose, but if they do win, it's going to be either Watson getting loose behind that secondary or Josh Jacobs getting 25 touches and probably finding the end zone.
or they lose and Watson gets loose and scores 2 touchdowns, and then that's the guy you wanted to have for a 1-week elimination play.
Yeah, I think both of those guys, and I think we kind of move on
Yeah.
and don't consider anybody else.
I think Watson's a great Watson is a great flex fade because you need to have, again, you 2 of our flex players are gonna get eliminated. Like, Watson's the kinda guy that could pop off for a big game and a loss, and that's
Yeah.
kinda what you need somebody to do that for you.
So Chargers, actually, we're projecting Cameron Dicker to be the most rostered kicker in this whole event. So I don't think there's any edge to using Cameron Dicker. Um, Lad McConkey's being projected to have 24% roster percentage, and which feels like too high. But I think people are thinking about last year, how he had that monster week. They're a dog against New England on the road. Could he get loose? I don't know, Coop. It's been like 4 out of the last 6 games for McConkey have been so crappy
Yeah.
that I don't really want to use him. I think Aronde Gadsden's interesting just because he's extremely low rostered. It's a position that's going to be hard to fill.
Right.
And you could see him getting like a 7-catch game here against New England.
He had 164 yards in the game earlier this year.
Yeah,
You know?
exactly.
Like,
So
that's the
I
kinda
like
guy
Gadsden.
you wanna look at. So Gadsden there. Latest on a Marion Hampton is that he was spotted at practice today wearing a brace. We don't know if they're gonna say limited, but he's not gonna be a DNP today.
The
Right?
vibes don't feel good. The vibes don't
I
feel
feel
good.
bad. Vibes feel bad, but he's not gonna be a DNP, so he's gonna play, I think. I think they'll probably list him as questionable, and then he'll play. But that's not what we want. We don't want guys like that in the line.
So
49ers. I'll just go ahead.
CMC, it's CMC 100% and Kittle. And Christian McCaffrey, we're projecting to be the second most rostered running back, but it's a big gap between him and Saquon Barkley because a lot of people are going to use George Kittle as well. And we're projecting Christian McCaffrey to have the most points of any running back in this weekend. So McCaffrey's projected to have almost 21 points on the road against Philly. And that's, I feels like a conservative number because if this game does get out of hand for San Francisco, they're trailing at the end. You could see McCaffrey padding his stats with a number of receptions. CMC feels like good chalk, even if they only play one game, just to get access to a potential 25, 30-point game. And you don't like Kittle, so I'm not going to twist your arm on him.
You don't say I don't like Kittle. You don't say that.
No.
That's
You don't like
something we
Kittle
say.
in this matchup.
That's right.
There you go.
I
You
love
like Kittle a lot. Yeah,
Kittle's
you
great
love the guy.
I would love to have a beer with George Kittle. But here's the reality is this team has been one of the best teams all year versus the tight end by far. And we're talking like if you go over and look at DVOA, right? Aaron Schatz's stat where he attempts to adjust for defenses and the guys they played against. There are 3 teams that have been seriously rated above the others. He's got the Rams at -22. He's got the Texans at -31. And then the Eagles are at -51. Literally the strongest team against any position based on their formula. We've seen it all year. The Bills also been very tough against the tight end, but they've been very tough. Zach Bond and Cooper DeJean really in that tight slot area, causing real problems for tight ends, man. And because this team uses the fullback and the blocking tight ends often, he really kind of ends up being like their intermediate guy and their kind of slot guy. I just worry that this is going to be a bad matchup for him. And if they win this week and he doesn't play well this week, how good of his second game does he need to have to outscore CMC? And then if you think this team goes deep, now all of a sudden you probably should have Purdy or CMC instead. So like for me, what does the window for Kittle look like where he's the pick? Where they lose this week, but he has the best game anyone's had all year against the Eagles? That could certainly happen because it's Kittle and he's awesome. Or maybe they win this week and lose next week and he manages 2 decent games. I just worry that this isn't really the best format for this guy because he's never been a big volume guy in terms of targets. And I don't know. I'd hate the matchup. So
yeah, I think you've talked me into we're cramming CMC in this lineup.
I think we
no
got
matter
it, dude.
I mean, CMC's the chalk we're going to put in. Pittsburgh, I think you can consider using their defense. The Pittsburgh against Houston this week. It's not
going to use a defense from that game.
Yeah, I think let's just do that, and then not consider. I guess if you want to cram in another Steeler, Jalen Warren or Boswell.
So low. I don't want to use. Yeah,
I don't want to use any of them. So I think
if they're going to lose, then it would probably be a Gainwell.
it could be a Gainwell week, but I don't think that he's sort of a, even though he's a guy who scored a lot, I don't think this is going to be one of those extreme games for him against this defense. I think you could end up with like 15, 16 points, but I don't think it necessarily moves the needle. I don't think there's a skill position player we use from Pittsburgh, to be honest with you.
Right. Because we need true martyrs. You know what I mean? Like we need heroic losses, which what does a Gainwell heroic loss look like? It still looks like 7 catches and not a lot of rushing yards, whereas like CMC could have a game where it goes to the wire and he scores like 3 touchdowns and they lose, because I think the real problem for that is the over under sucks, dude. What is the over under for this game? It's like
low.
30.
Yeah, it's very low. I feel like this is the game you use the defense here, and you sort of, I guess we probably use the defense here, and you get 2 weeks out of your defense, and potentially the first week could be a high scoring one, and we avoid trying to thread the needle with any sort of Pittsburgh skill position player. I don't think there's any edge to it. Like we make an argument for McMillan. I think there's an interesting one there, just because there's really no one going to be using Teterow McMillan, so you get a lot of leverage against the field. But with Pittsburgh, I don't want to do it. I feel like this feels like a game that could be a 16-14 win for someone, not a whole lot of fantasy friendly, and one of the defenses put something up.
Yeah, and Scott Colby says, Gainwell, could he catch 5 or 6 passes for 45 and a TD? In this contest, we need more than that. We need more juice than that for a guy losing one game here, like playing a single game. You'd be surprised some of the efforts in the past that have come out and just gotten it done in this. This isn't one and done where you get to set a new lineup every week. This is your only lineup. So like,
I mean, back to back years, you've had one of the guys you've needed was a wide receiver that went out in the first round. It was Puka Nacua, who had the record for the most receiving yards as a rookie. And then the following year, Ladd McConkey ended up with breaking that record. Right. Both of those guys played a single game, but you needed to have access to them.
Yeah, you need somebody to die a valiant death. And Gainwell, a Gainwell game, like it's possible, but we want statistically likely is what we're looking for. So yeah, here's what we're doing, folks. We got all the names in here. These are all the guys we'd consider for an FFPC lineup. No draft, no salary. You can only use one player from each team. So the moment we say we're going to use Puka Nacua, we can't use Stafford. That's the beauty of this game. It's your team for the entire playoffs. So you got to kind of try and make sure you're not stepping on your own toes, right? Like if we're using, we probably don't want to use guys like you definitely don't want to go out and say, okay, I'm going to pick Trevor Lawrence as my quarterback and, James Cook, because one of those guys is going to get knocked out this round. I guess James Cook could have one really good game. That's a bad example.
Jacksonville's been good against the run this season. But I don't know if Cook gets by this one, he's whatever. Let's get into it. I think the first thing we do is we cram in the chalk that we absolutely have decided on. Yeah. So just cram in CMC, cram in JSN, and then we build our lineup with those two guys already in there.
Perfect. Yeah, that's a good start. And maybe we should just fill the running back and wide receiver spots while
or do we make a decision on Puka versus Stafford?
Yeah, that probably is the way.
We could come back to that one because we're going to consider quarterback.
Well, so you said that you like the Rams to go to the Super Bowl.
I like Stafford because I think so I'm picking the Rams to make the Super Bowl. I think that it's, again, fading Nacua is a really hard one in this competition, but using Stafford, we get a little bit of leverage against the field, and we're fading one of the most highly rostered guys.
Right.
So I could go both ways on this one. I don't think it's like we have to use Matt Stafford. I have a Matt Stafford lineup, but I just wanted to throw that one out there.
Let's get Nacua in there, and let's use a mobile.
Okay, you got it. Let's do it.
Let's do a mobile quarterback here because you already got a Stafford lineup too. We want to differentiate. I think I actually already have a Stafford lineup as well.
So we have the 3 chalk. We're considering these guys to be 3 good chalk. We have CMC, Nacua, and JSN. JSN, doesn't play this week, but Nacua and CMC, we could get off to a very fast start. Again, we wouldn't differentiate ourselves. But if we didn't use those guys and they both put up 30, and then we're in a little bit of a bind.
Right. And here's the other thing about picking these 3 players is that we have not necessarily made any declarations in terms of our bracket. All three of these players could have monster games in a one-game loss. So with these picks, we have not at any point said, okay, the Eagles are losing. You know what I mean? We're not saying that the Rams are winning even this game. So we haven't actually made any like definitive statements towards our bracket, which you do make when you pick a quarterback, a kicker, or a defense, because like your quarterback has to win 2 games. Your defense and kicker, you don't want going to the Super Bowl. So those are like definitive statement picks.
So you seem to want to use a Christian Watson.
I did want to do
We
that.
could consider using him here because I like a lot of your arguments for using him. Green Bay winning this game, Watson has a big week, gets behind the defense,
We're
or if
losing.
they're trailing, he has a
Yeah.
chance. And also like not using Josh Jacobs, we're going to be kind of fading the most commonly used Packer.
Yeah, exactly. So and Watson again, yeah, Watson does fit that mold. I think, and Watson also, I like that play as a kind of soft fade of the Packers, as a
I think
way of
that's fun.
saying,
Yep.
because here's the thing about it is that the reason I say that is because they are the 7 seed, right? So if they do win, they get the Seahawks, and I think that that's a bad matchup for the Packers. So I love Watson is actually my number one and done play this week, because I'm using Watson in every one and done where you set a new lineup every week, because I think that this is his best shot to have a big game. If he loses, you can't use him again. If he plays the Seahawks next week, you're probably not going to use him against the Seahawks. So that's a huge one and done play for me. But I think it also applies to this format where it's like this guy could go out and have one huge game, or he could have 2 huge games, but I don't think they're going to the end.
Yeah.
Corey in the house wants to know, is there any thought about Barkley over CMC there if Trent doesn't play? Talking about Trent Williams, the left tackle for the 49ers. I mean, that's the thing about that. We don't have to pick one or the other. The only rule is you can't pick 2 guys from the same team. We could start Barkley and CMC,
Yeah.
with the thought process being either one of these guys could blow up in a single game. Either one of these guys could drag their team to the Super Bowl. They are the best players in football. We probably want to have them. So, I mean, the question with the Eagles is, do we think the Eagles go to the Super Bowl? Because I could be sold on Hurts. I could be sold on the Eagles losing this week or next week and A.J. Brown having 1 or 2 good games. I could be sold on Barkley. Howard Bender really wants to use Dallas Goedert. I don't necessarily love that. So,
Yeah, I don't like where Howard's at on that one. I mean, I get that Goddard catches a lot of touchdowns, but
it's a good matchup this week too. And
Yeah.
if they lose this week, Goddard could be like have a 1-game burst, But
ultimately, I think, do we want to use Jalen Hurts in this? And I have a Hurts lineup, but again, we're projecting Hurts to be at like 5% rostered, which seems absolutely nuts for him to be that low.
oddly low, yeah.
Yeah, so we get a ton of leverage. Like basically, you could take Stafford out because we're not using him. We would get a ton of leverage against the field if we use Jalen Hurts or Bo Nix here. If you
Right.
use Allen or you use May, you're having access to the 2 most heavily rostered QBs. Trevor Lawrence is going to be more highly rostered than Jalen Hurts, according to our projections, which seems kind of crazy. I would do a Hurts team if you want to kind of roll the dice here, but I'm open to which way you want to go.
We did Hurts team on Wednesday, and I don't want to do that here today.
Listen,
if we put Bo Nix in the lineup right now, that would have the biggest trickle down effect on pretty much the rest of pretty much everything here.
We could go chalky if we go Bo Nix.
So Sanderson and I are going Nix.
I don't mind going Nix as well. Again, you're saying, look at Denver making the Super Bowl here with Bo Nix. You're going to get 3 games out of him. I don't know. I think Bo Nix is an interesting one.
Yeah.
And you've had these Knicks blow up games.
I got Knicks, but look, I'm going to interject here, Theo. I know you're the guest. I have a Knicks and I now have a Knicks and a Hurts team already. So let's branch out a little bit.
Sure, I'm fine with that. So I think we're talking about a Josh Allen team, or do you want to go with May? Like, which way are you feeling on? It's your Patriots. Are your Patriots making a deep run?
I don't know, man.
I don't feel great about it.
I'm nervous about it. I'm going to the game on Sunday, dude.
Good for you.
Dry January game for me, dude. I'm going to be.
Is that going to be?
Lasers are going to be coming out of my eyes, dude.
How's the weather? You're unseasonably warm today, right?
It's oddly warm here, man.
Yeah.
I almost wanted to cool down a little bit before these Chargers show up, dude. But it's nice out here today. It's really nice. So I don't know. We'll have to see. I could
Which way
do.
yeah, quarterback wise, why don't you pick the quarterback
If you had to
here?
pick between Lawrence or Williams, who would you pick? If we were going to do that, I don't know if we want to, but just if we were going to.
I mean, I think both of them cap out at conference championship as a max upside. Um, I think that they're both interesting and it gets us super unique.
Okay, let's do a Josh Allen team.
Okay, so let's do a Josh Allen team. This might be 2 weeks to Josh Allen, um, which feels kind of weird saying, but the odds are saying they're at plus 500 to make the Super Bowl. So they've got a chance, and Josh Allen is going to be the first or second most highly rostered quarterback in this competition. So we got to get a little bit unique elsewhere because right now, I mean, Watson gets you a little bit unique. He'll be like 20% rostered, but you still have basically ate the chalk on your 4 guys.
If we were to do this and say it's a Eagles Bills Super Bowl, which I think, despite the odds, like is so realistic. Like, do we have too much chalk in this lineup? Can we still recover with?
Yeah,
we can still differentiate this.
We can absolutely recover. Tight end, the 3 flexes, we have an opportunity to recover and get different here. And again, with Barkley and with Allen, and with pretty much every so Barkley CMC, one cannibalizes the other, but you could still end up with a ton of points this week, and then you're guaranteed to have one of those guys left next week.
Right.
Nakua is going to win that game. Watson flip a coin, but if Josh Allen gets by Jacksonville, I think they could make their run. So, a lot is pending on them this week against Jacksonville. But again, with and then sort of the double-edged sword. There's no way that they beat Jacksonville on the road without Josh Allen having a smash week. So you have access to that smash week, and then they get by that difficult road game. If they win that one, they could have the momentum to maybe win 2 more.
So the chat wants ETN, but if we're picking Josh Allen, we kind of we want to some degree fade this Jaguars team.
I think if you're using Josh Allen, you're fading the Jaguars.
And is that where we use somebody like Parker Washington and just say, okay, we're going to try and shoot the moon with a 10 target guy?
Or do you use Cam Little, who's capable of hitting long field goals and giving you one big kicker week, and you're sort of fading them, and you're using a lightly rostered kicker?
Yeah.
So I would just use Cam Little in that one, and Cam Little falls on the grenade, but he hits 2 50-yard field goals.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's what you got to do. You got to have a hard stance somewhere, and a lot of people are going to be playing the game of like, which Jaguar do I use? And we're kind of saying none.
Yep.
So that gets us a little different.
You're just hoping that you don't miss out on one spike week, but with Jacksonville, there's a chance that you end up with like 15 points from like 3 guys. And none of them have like a massive week.
Yeah. And with the NFC, we actually haven't necessarily even predicted. Now that I think about it, with Barkley, CMC, Puka, JSN, we don't really even need to sit back and say, oh, here's the team we think is going, like we could just kind of pick the best players from each of these NFC teams and just say, however it settles, and we have a shot regardless, like we've got to put our money on Allen making a run, and we got to fade the Jags.
Well, who's our team?
When the Bills win, who are they most likely to play?
Well, who's our team fades here? Why don't we pick our 2 team fades here? So we're not going to use Tedero McMillan. We're not using the Panthers.
No.
Okay, so they're out of the equation. Are we going to cram in a Steeler? We said we're going to go one of the 2 defenses here. So do you want to cram in Nico Collins, or do you want to cram in Dalton Schultz, or do you want to cram in the Texans defense?
Yeah, I mean, Texans are going to be so popular that maybe going Steelers and having the Steelers win one game with TJ Watt going crazy. Maybe that does put us ahead of every.
I think that Pittsburgh is projected to have a higher defensive rostership than Houston because Nico Collins is being projected to have a huge roster percentage. So I think using the Houston defense actually gets you a little bit more unique as a lineup from a game theory perspective. So why don't we stick with Houston? So we would be fading Nico Collins in this build, which I think is okay to do. It opens us up a little bit to, if you want another wide receiver, do you consider using Cortland Sutton here, who's chalky, but him and RJ Harvey have both had like 18 points or more in 4 out of the last 5 games. They've both been consistent scorers for this team. Are you good with using Houston at defense, or do you want to sort of pivot off that?
No, I like that because like you think about who they're probably going to play, like I'm not too worried about them playing the Chargers or the Bills necessarily. If the Patriots and Jaguars win and they play the Texans, that would suck. And it's entirely possible.
If you get the Chargers upset, you're on cloud nine with this Houston defense, right?
Right.
Yeah, I mean, and
I just had to. My brain had to adjust to that as a Patriots fan.
Houston, though, you could see their defense putting up 15 points in back-to-back weeks, win or lose, because of the way they can get to the quarterback, opportunistic secondary. I think they're a really fun defense. And again, we fade the chalky Nico Collins because we have so much chalk elsewhere.
Yeah, and Christian Watson, Cortland Sutton, those are dangerous agents, dangerous 1 or 2 game agents to have in there. You know, like one game.
Scott Kobe makes the comment that Scott Barrett brought this up. The J.K. Dobbins returning maybe puts a little bit of the cap on R.J. Harvey having the spikes. I just think Denver's going to lean on Sutton, especially they've got a home game next week. This has been the number one target for Bo Nix now for 2 years. Sutton, again, has been very hot over the last 5 weeks. So I think he's interesting. I think we got the right Bronco in there.
Dobbins coming back to me that ends up looking like Isaiah Pacheco coming back last year, where it's like, hey, thanks for showing up and helping out a little bit, but we're kind of already doing something here.
So we've been essentially, we are not using a Drake May. We're kind of fading the Patriots. Do we use a Diggs or a Hunter Henry here? I guess my question to you would be, do you want to go with a Loveland Gadsden, who I think are both really enticing, even though Loveland's highly rostered? The last 2 weeks, he's been terrific. And I don't know. I feel like by the time we're done with the playoffs, Colston Loveland's going to be everyone's tight end 3 in Dynasty. Right. And he might be like tight end 4 in redraft next year, despite being like 21.
There's no must-have players left here. The question is who can come out and have 9 catches, and it's Loveland or also Schultz. Like Loveland and Schultz have both had those games, but we're already using Houston's defense. So.
Yeah, that's right. Good point. Yeah. So I think we're Loveland.
I do like Schultz. I have Schultz in another lineup, so I'm cool with going Loveland here. We could go Hunter Henry. We could go Hunter Henry, and it does fit our narrative of like the Patriots not making it too deep.
Well, if you're if we're doing that, then we could be potentially fading a Stephon Diggs or Travion Henderson or Ramondre Stevenson really, really big game. But yeah, I mean, I think it's fine. The other argument I would say to you is, do we cram in an Oronde Gadsden at tight end? And Oronde Gadsden has, it's a little bit more of a thread the needle proposition. They're dogs. But like you said, Gadsden has that spike week potential. Maybe that's just the narrative, is every year we have a LA Charger go nuts in the playoffs and then their ADP rises. We saw it last year. Maybe they lean on Gadsden. I'm just throwing that out.
I mean, yeah. Okay. I like the idea of Gadsden there. But dude, Ramondre Stevenson
he's been awesome.
People hate him. He's been awesome, dude.
I mean, if you're talking about
he's getting like 8 carries a game, and he's what do you have last game? 153 yards and 3 touchdowns.
He had like 30 and 25 in the last 2 weeks in points. And it's sort of the David Montgomery role is dominating the Jahmyr Gibbs role in this offense, if we're keeping it from like a Lions perspective, for a split backfield. Stevenson gives us a lot of leverage against the field, though. Diggs and Henderson are both Henderson's projected to have like 18% roster percentage. Diggs, I think, was like 20-something%. Stevenson's like sub 5%, as is Hunter Henry. So both of those are interesting. We don't need to cram in another tight end, though, because we have Colston Loveland in.
Yeah, so we put I put Gadsden in.
Oh, excuse me. We have Gadsden.
I got the wrong screen on. There you go. Sorry. I thought I'm like looking at I got you guys on the wrong screen. There we go.
So the question is, do you want to?
I should put Stevenson in, and that would leave if we did that, we'd only have 1 spot left.
Well, we'd be a full fading the Bears if you didn't put in Loveland.
Oh, so we would go because here's where we would live. The teams we'd have left would be
Chicago, Pittsburgh, Carolina.
We would need one Bear because we're not going to put in a Steeler or a Panther right now, right? So the only team we have.
Or do we get back to our initial thoughts and consider using Tedero McMillan as a double-digit dog and try to, I don't know, we're already threading the needle with.
I don't think we want to fade the Bears because I think we want to leave ourselves open to the possibility that Christian Watson is a great one and done pick. We don't want to put two. I don't want to put McMillan because the thing about the Bears is that like they're on the road. The Packers are on the road the entire time, no matter what. The odds of them, the 7 seed has a really tough road. You know,
Let's go Loveland. I mean, I have a couple of Loveland lineups, but he's red hot. I like Chicago to win, and getting potentially 2 weeks of Colston Loveland, it just feels like he's a player that's gaining momentum every single week.
right time, man.
And why shouldn't that narrative continue in the NFL playoffs?
Right. And if our thought process is the Bears and Packers combine to play 3 games total, right? Winner of this game loses next week. Tight ends, guys like Christian Watson or a tight end that's gotten 10 targets in back-to-back weeks in a tight end premium format. That's how you get the most out of 2 games here. So, all right, I like it. I like the way it looks, folks. Here's how our lineup shakes out. It's FFPC Playoff Challenge. You can only use 1 player from each team. No draft, no salary. If you guys want to get set up, use this QR code that I'm about to put over Theo's beautiful face and his strong traps. You can go and click that QR code, use promo code ALARM at MyFFPC, or go to fantasyalarm.com/FFPC. When you use promo code ALARM, they'll give you $25 when you deposit $35 or more. This contest costs $35. So if you deposit $45, you get 2 entries into it. And you can build a lineup just like ours. Here's what we got. We're going Josh Allen, Saquon Barkley. So with this lineup, we expect the Bills to go deep.
Yep.
We have Saquon Barkley, Christian McCaffrey, Puka Nacua, JSN. And any one of those guys can lose and have a really good single game. Any one of those guys can go to the Super Bowl and carry their team. So really good options coming out of the NFC. We're picking Ramondre Stevenson for the Patriots as a guy. Maybe they win 1-2 games, and he just keeps doing what he's doing, which 6 touchdowns over the last 3 games. We got Cortland Sutton, Christian Watson, guys that can have a couple good spike weeks, but by the nature of the rest of our setup, we're hoping they don't go too deep. Colston Loveland, Aronde Gadsden, tight end premium. Again, tight end has been a position where in a singular game, if they go out and catch 8 balls for 80 yards in tight end premium, that's better than most wide receivers can manage to do. We're fading the Jaguars hard because we have the Bills. So Cam, we have Josh Allen. And then Houston, best defense in the league to potentially put up some numbers in 1 or 2 games, man. I mean, everything checks out. Great players, different enough with a 2 tight end set. What do you think, Theo, man?
Yeah, I think we get unique with Ramondre Stevenson and we get unique with Aronde Gadsden. So we're going to have, even though we're eating a lot of chalk, it's an interesting one. This team completely craps out if Josh Allen loses to Jacksonville this week, which is a possibility. But if he gets by this one, you could see Buffalo winning another game. And again, Josh Allen, the fact that he plays this week, if we just get him to the AFC title game, he doesn't have to win it for this team. I think it's a good one. Eating the chalk on Nacua and JSN feels right in this contest.
There's no lock chalk quarterback, man. There really isn't. Like the bye week quarterbacks are not that strong. Any one of the Rams, Eagles, Bills, Texans, Jaguars, any one of these teams can lose this week. It really is a great playoff this year, man. So I love the way it's set up. And again, when you look at the winners from past years, it is a lot of chalk. And then it's a guy like Xavier Worthy, or for us, maybe it's a Christian Watson or Ramondre Stevenson. So I love it, man. This is one of my favorite episodes every year, because
it's always fun.
We've been doing all this work all year. We know our stuff. We've been looking at the playoffs. And you know what? Tomorrow the playoffs start, and it's a whole new world for us, man. What do you got planned for off-season content, brother? Let everybody know where they can find you, what you got planned, what you're going to be rocking, or if you still have obviously a lot of playoff stuff out there. What do you got going on, man?
Yeah, there's no off season. There's no off season.
You going to Mobile?
I'm going to Mobile for the Senior Bowl with Brett Whitefield. We launched the 2026 NFL Draft podcast. We just did an NFL mock draft this week, sort of like merging Brett Whitefield as sort of like a ball knower with fantasy football stuff that all mix in. I did well last year in like the Huddle Report for picking the mock draft. So I really take pride in trying to nail what NFL teams are going to do there. So we've had good feedback. That's going to be a really fun show. Brett's very, very sharp guy. I'm doing School of Scott with Scott Barrett, which you've been on with us before, Coop. That's a fun show. But yeah, Fantasy Football Daily, that's my show over at Fantasy Points. And then Dynasty Life, which you've also been on, my Dynasty show. So I'm recording a lot, dropping a lot of content. If you're watching this on YouTube, go check out Fantasy Points YouTube. All my stuff's over there. And then my top 50 PPR rankings, that article should go up maybe today or tomorrow. Look for that one. Yeah, I locked that in. Bro. Yeah. So
you're a maniac, dude.
Yeah, you're the same. So I'm rejuvenated. I took my time off, so now I really don't take days off. It's now until the NFL draft, and then a little bit of a break, and then we get after it. So it's awesome though. I love it. I love chopping it up with people like you. I always enjoy building this lineup with you, Coop. It's like the two of us. Every time we put a show together, it's always a lot of fun, and hopefully this team runs pure.
And hopefully people learn something. If you guys go in, take our lineup and tweak it and win, we won't be mad, man. Yeah. That's our job, to help you guys out, man. I just hope that at the end of the day, that number one team at the top, Balky's beard and Bachman's beard, gets the respect it deserves.
How are we spending our money, Coop, is the question. We're this is good. This is what's the 35 pays out what? 100K?
100,000, yeah.
50-50. That's gonna be great.
We'll split down let's just take I don't know. Let's take like $2,000 and allocate that to just like a ball and dinner at the expo.
Done. I'm in.
Like just just
is there a place at the expo that's going to cost? I guess we'd be bringing a couple people.
Dave and Buster's, dude.
Dave and Buster's. Oh yeah.
We're gonna set that Dave and Buster's and in that strip mall. We're gonna turn that place.
We're gonna light it up. We're gonna be lighting
it up. We're talking finger traps for everybody.
Love that.
Yeah, that's what's going down when we win. So be ready for that, folks. Be on the radar for that. But dude, you're always so generous with your time, staying 20 minutes over here, man. You rule. But hey, to win the money, it's worth it. So thank you, everybody, for hanging out with us. Definitely hit like and subscribe on the way out. I got tons of Dynasty content, also stuff. Best ball the moment it comes out, the moment the big board. When does the big board come out, Theo? Do you know? It's like February, right?
Yeah, it's soon. There's really, that's going to be an early contest, and then FFPC has their early best balls coming up
already.
Soon. Yeah, it's wild times.
Yeah, so awesome stuff, man. But hey, that's it for us. Thank you so much for tuning in. Make sure you go get your chain over at USA Sports Fan Chains. Use promo code ALARM. They'll give you 5% off. But until next time.
Adios, turd nuggets.